by the power of Grayskull. This is definitely not something I ever expected to see on my 2026 bingo card. Somehow, a live-action adaptation of a cheesy, over-the-top 1980s cartoon has transformed into one of the most fiercely debated movies on the internet right now. Depending on who you ask, Masters of the Universe is either a woke catastrophe created by people who supposedly hate He-Man and everything he stands for, determined to ridicule and dismantle the franchise's legacy, or it's being praised as a clever, thoughtful examination of toxic masculinity through the lens of modern progressive values. Or maybe it's just another cynical Hollywood cash grab, squeezing a few extra dollars from a nostalgic IP, aimed squarely at middle-aged fans who remember the original. The truth, though, is that every single one of those takes misses the mark. And frankly, none of them are worth listening to. You should listen to me. Because as far as I'm concerned, Masters of the Universe is a damn fun, good-natured adventure movie that absolutely captures the spirit of the source material and managed to get far more laughs out of me than it had any business doing. Now, sure, there are a few caveats. It's way longer than it needs to be. The story takes nearly 30 minutes before it properly kicks into gear. Quite a few of the jokes feel awkwardly forced, especially throughout the first half. And yes, it's about as dumb as a sack full of hammers, but honestly, I had an absolute blast watching Masters of the Universe. And there's a good chance you will too. The movie opens with a fast-moving introduction to the world of Eternia. Young Prince Adam is training under the watchful eye of Man-at-Arms, striving to become a warrior, worthy of earning the respect of his stern and demanding father, King Randor. But everything changes when Skeletor and his forces launch an assault on Castle Grayskull and seize control. Before all is lost, the sorceress manages to send Adam to Earth along with the Sword of Power, hoping that one day he'll return and lead Eternia back to freedom. Cut to the present day. And, well, things haven't exactly gone according to plan. Adam is now living an ordinary life on Earth, stuck in a dead-end job as an HR consultant while obsessively searching the internet for the Sword of Power. Because yes, apparently he somehow lost it when he arrived on Earth. How? No idea. Anyway, a random online lead eventually points him toward the sword, which just so happens to be sitting on display inside a local comic book shop. Sure. Why not? But almost immediately after reclaiming it, he's attacked by some monstrous beast creature that was drawn to the sword's power the second he touched it. Thankfully, Teela arrives just in time to save his ass and transports him back to Eternia. A version of Eternia that's now become a crumbling dystopian nightmare. Basically modern-day London, just with slightly fewer stabbings. From there, Adam must reunite Eternia's scattered warriors, rally them against Skeletor's regime, rescue his imprisoned parents, and ultimately save the entire planet. But can he truly learn to master the power of Grayskull and overcome the forces standing in his path? Or is he simply marching straight into a trap carefully laid by Skeletor himself? Now, there's a lot I want to say about this movie. But first I need to clear up a few myths that have been floating around online. Myth number 1, this movie exists to mock and deconstruct the original Masters of the Universe cartoon. I can understand why people would assume that a modern Hollywood reboot centered around giant muscular heroes from an 80s cartoon feels like exactly the kind of thing people expect to get hit with the message. But that's not what this movie is doing at all. If anything, it's an affectionate and playful tribute to the original series. It preserves the tone, the characters, and the overall aesthetic while refusing to take itself too seriously. It's willing to laugh with the source material rather than laugh at it. And honestly, that's probably the smartest approach. Because as much as I respect classic franchises, let's not pretend Masters of the Universe was some sacred literary masterpiece. It wasn't the modern Iliad. It was a wonderfully cheesy, gloriously campy cartoon designed primarily to sell action figures to kids. And to its credit, it did that extremely well. But it never treated itself with excessive seriousness. So why should the movie? Myth number 2, Adam is useless and the movie is really about Teela becoming an unstoppable girl boss. Now, if you've only watched the first 40 minutes, I can see why that impression exists. Teela absolutely saves Adam's life. Twice. In rapid succession. But there's a simple reason for that. Adam isn't He-Man yet. He's just an ordinary guy who has absolutely no clue what's happening around him. The biggest difference between this film and Kevin Smith's animated series comes down to intent. Smith's version often felt determined to minimize Adam in order to elevate Teela, while portraying her as an insufferable asshole for most of the story because apparently that's what passes for strength. This movie never makes that mistake. At no point are you confused about who the protagonist is. Teela's role is to help Adam grow into the hero he's destined to become. Nothing more. Nothing less. She needs him, believes in him, and genuinely respects him even during his lowest moments. The difference in attitude between these two productions is impossible to miss. One felt like a cynical dismantling of a heroic figure. The other feels like a sincere and entertaining attempt to build that hero up. They are fundamentally not the same thing. Myth number 3. This movie is secretly some grand exploration of toxic masculinity. Honestly, I don't know whether this came from marketing interviews or lazy internet discourse. But it couldn't be further from reality. Skeletor isn't a metaphor. He's not symbolic of anything. He's simply a villain who enjoys being evil. And he absolutely loves every second of it. That's his character. That's the whole point. And by the way, Jared Leto has somehow finally found a role he didn't completely wreck. No way. Yes way. His portrayal of Skeletor is theatrical, dramatic, grandiose, and delightfully campy, which is exactly how the character should be. Adam starts the movie as a complete mess. But not because he's some toxic white male who needs to be humbled. It's because he's been shaped by a world of HR seminars, conflict avoidance, and endless corporate buzzword nonsense. If anything, the movie spends a fair amount of time poking fun at modern culture and its obsession with identity-driven fluff. And the lesson Adam learns isn't that strength is bad. It's that empathy and negotiation are valuable tools. But sometimes, the only solution is beating the absolute hell out of someone because they genuinely deserve it. Those are the myths I wanted to put to rest. But there are also a few genuine criticisms worth mentioning. First, the movie is far longer than it needs to be. Most of that comes from the extended Earth sequence that drags on for nearly 30 minutes before the adventure properly begins. I understand why it's there. The filmmakers are wrestling with the exact same challenge faced by the Dolph Lundgren movie back in 1987. You need a point of view character to guide audiences into this bizarre fantasy world. The 1987 film used a group of high school students who looked permanently exhausted. The 2026 version uses Adam himself as the audience surrogate. Both methods sort of work. But honestly, you could trim 20 minutes from Adam's Earth storyline and lose almost nothing important. The movie spends way too much time waiting to become the movie you actually came to watch. There's also a fair amount of Marvel-style quippy humor sprinkled throughout. Most of it feels dated and doesn't really land. But when the jokes do connect, they're genuinely funny. A few of the references and callbacks to the original cartoon got legitimate belly laughs out of me. Ironically, considering what happened in the Kevin Smith series, I actually wish Evelyn had been given more to do. She spends most of the film taking abuse from Skeletor, and it feels like it's building towards something meaningful. I kept expecting a betrayal, a rebellion, or some major twist. But it never really comes. And that feels like a missed opportunity, especially considering how talented Alison Brie is. At the moment, Masters of the Universe appears to be tracking toward box office disappointment. Which is honestly a shame. Because this movie deserves a better audience than it's likely going to get. No, it's not high art. No, it probably won't change your life. But it's significantly more entertaining, charming, and good-natured than many people are giving it credit for. And if you're looking for something other than horror movies this weekend, and you're in the mood for a nostalgic trip back to childhood, you could do a whole lot worse than Masters of the Universe. Thanks for watching. Before I go, just a quick announcement. On June 27th in Toronto, Canada, we'll be hosting a special premiere event for Trial by Fire and Complications, the 2 short films we completed late last year. There'll be screenings, audience Q&A sessions, entertainment throughout the evening, and possibly a little bit of post-event debauchery if circumstances align in your favor. The whole thing will be hosted by yours truly. It's a one-night-only event, tickets are limited, and we'd love to see you there. If you're interested, grab yours now using the link in the description. Anyway, that's all I've got for today.